Now, do you think Dobbs has a legit shot at QB2 still?
I
Or is
feel
it
like he
just
should.
Mason
I feel like
Haskins?
he should, but he's not. I feel like he definitely should, though. You watch him in practice every single time. He's making plays every single time. And it's frustrating because he makes plays and is viewed differently because they say
He's
you're
with
with
the
the
four
threes and the
stringers.
fours.
Yeah.
But he can't control who he's going against, right? If James Pierre makes a play on Rico Bussey, we're not going to say, well, it was just Rico Bussey. We're going to say James Pierre made a play. If James Pierre makes that play against Chase Claypool, though, it magnifies it even more, right? But with Dobbs, it does, like, we see him make plays with his arms, with his legs, even in the game. Made plays, arms, legs, still going to be viewed that way. And that's another reason why I'm like, I want to see them legitimately rotate those guys. If this is a legit competition like they are saying it is, rotate them so that way you take out that excuse. Because that's the part where I'm like, you could only say a kid isn't productive or he's only doing it against that talent for so long. If he's a productive player, he's a productive player. He might not pass his eyeball test, but does he get the job done? Debo don't pass a lot of eyeball tests when he played as outside linebacker, but he got the job done. We talked about TJ Watt. If you put him next to Myles Garrett and Khalil Mack, Von Miller and such, he's not passing that eyeball test, but he's a productive player. So when I think of Dobbs, it's kind of the same conversation to me. I'm like, yeah, it don't look the best, but the dude's productive. He finds a way to get it done, man. So I would like him to be more involved in that competition, but I just don't think they view him like that right now.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about because
Yeah.
we talk about competition. I'm just thinking it's between Haskins and Mason at this point.
Yeah. But I don't, not hot take. It's not a hot take, but I can definitely see a scenario where if Haskins beats out Mason, they're not keeping him. They would keep Dobbs. And yeah, that I could definitely see that scenario.
What's the reasoning you think?
Just because with
Mason have trade value? Is that
I don't necessarily think he has trade value, but I look at this situation with Mason very similar to the Landry Jones situation. And what was the difference? You know, I mean, outside of just, okay, whether it was pedigree or whether it's because he's been here, it's still a open spot. You know, like he hasn't solidified any of that. And I just don't see a scenario where you would keep him and Haskins here and have those guys trying to split these reps because whoever is the number 2 quarterback is going to get those reps, those development reps in practice. That's going to really help them get better. So one of them guys is not going to get that.
I get what you're saying.
And you're not going to have Mason sitting on the practice squad and Dobbs out there because I think Dobbs, they could easily find a way to just keep him out here. Not on the active, but they can just find a way with him. Whereas with Mason, I just don't see that scenario playing out. And I feel like with Mason, he is still, I feel like, trying to get that starting spot. He wants to be a starting quarterback. Whereas with Dobbs, I don't want to say that he's kind of content where he's at, but I don't feel like it's as life or death for him.
You can't really go from 0 to 60 right now. You're the fourth stringer on the Steelers. You can't just maybe jump around to another team and potentially be in a competition for the starting spot. Now, what he could maybe do, because he is having a more impressive preseason thus far, at least just based off that Hall of Fame game, but a lot of people are talking highly of him in training camp still too. Maybe you could be a backup on a team, or at least third stringer, because right now, if you stand here, you're fourth string.
Right.
Which sucks.
Yeah. But like I said, I do think if Mason doesn't clearly beat out Haskins, I can definitely see that scenario where, it's Haskins and Dobbs as the backups to Ben, man. I could definitely see that scenario.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Based off training camp thus far, I haven't heard too much from Mason since the Hall of Fame game. I'm still hearing a lot of Haskins, a lot of praises toward Haskins.
Dobbs should be getting praised too.
Dobbs
should be getting, but
well, from you I've heard it. From you I've heard it at least.
Yeah. But once again though, we never got a chance to see how Mason would respond the rest of these practices because of the timetable of everything. Right?
Oh, you think that's more what it is?
No. I'm just saying, like, in terms of that practice or whatever, I think it was like the Saturday practice, right? Yeah, Haskins looked good. He looked good. Absolutely looked good. Whatever. I'm mixing up what day. Not because yesterday obviously was the one that got rained out, and then the other one was in shirts and shorts. So for me, like, I don't feel like either of those guys have done crazy stuff since then, just because it wasn't a lot of time. And that's ultimately why we haven't even had a ton of updates on the practice, because of the structure of how it's been lately. But yeah, either way, man, I feel like Mason's situation is very similar to Landry, man. At the end of the day, that's his situation right now. Like, if Landry would have clearly beat out Mason and clearly beat out Dobbs, he would have been here. that was it. I mean, that was the same offseason where he was extended, all this other stuff, very similar with the Mason situation, right? Just their patterns right now, like, it's almost identical. But that was the different part. It was close in that Landry competition. And even though the local media thought that they would never get rid of Landry, we saw how that played out. And I just could see that scenario happening again with Mason if he doesn't make it clear that he is the number 2 quarterback.
In my opinion, he hasn't thus far.
I would agree with that.
I mean, we could go back and forth about who had the better.
I don't think he's played bad, but I don't think he's been clear cut that he's number 2 guy. It's still a legitimate conversation.
Yeah, if you're saying it's murky, then damn, that could be more likely of a scenario.
Coach Tomlin says this: if it's murky, if it's tied up between a vet and the young guy, or a high paid guy and the young guy, he's always going with the young guy. He's always going with the cheaper guy. You look at Mason's contract, you look at Haskins' contract. That's a simple like, if it came down to that, that's for verbatim how Coach Tomlin goes about it. He would tell me that every single year once I did my extension. Hey, if it's between you and a rookie, it's between you and a lower paid guy. If it's close, I'm going with that guy. That they will tell anybody that's getting an extension. That's his mindset. That's his thing. As long as you make your point, that's your thing, and there's no confusion. We good on it. We made it work, so we were good. But with Mason, that's the other thing that's not helping him in this conversation, because he's getting $5 million this year. Haskins getting vet minimum, couple $100,000. I mean, it's not we're not poo-pooing it, because it is in regular context a lot of money, but in football context, that's chump change. So if it was close between those guys, like how it currently is, you save your money.